Hey everyone, Namaste. Welcome to the Soma Matha online Sangha. Join us in practice for inner peace, which brings clarity in life, improving health, relationships, success, and prosperity, and which prepares the mind for true meditation, which awakens intuitive knowing and spiritual sight. Each week we are announcing upcoming events and opportunities to participate in the activities of the Soma Matha organization based near Richmond, Virginia. Led by Swami Ganathamritananda, the Soma Matha is dedicated to spreading authentic teachings on spiritual yoga, mantra, meditation, Ayurveda, and other Vedic sciences for the peace of the world. We are working to build a temple for goddess Shakambhari Devi. Each week we'll be sharing a teaching from Swamiji, doing a group mantra practice and meditation, and conducting a simple puja, or prayer ceremony, for the goddess to humbly supplicate her to bestow her blessing upon the Sangha. A Sangha is a spiritual community who come together to support one another in their practice. Each individual gains strength in their practice from the collective effort of the group. Sangha feeds our practice. It nourishes us and empowers our efforts. It smooths and balances the challenges we face as it lifts our consciousness into subtler realms. My name is Grant Ottinger. I've been studying with Swamiji for a few years, and he's asked me to lead the Sangha online since internet connection is weak at the property and live broadcast difficult. Swamiji will be watching the Sangha and participating in the group practices and sending video teachings for the group each week. To receive, we must give. Our efforts to provide this virtual space and to publish the many free teachings available on the website, our YouTube channel, and Facebook pages are dependent upon your support. We are encouraging all Sangha participants to formalize their connection by becoming Sangha members and pledging their monthly support through our Patreon. There are 5 different tiers of support so that you can contribute according to your ability. All Sangha members will receive access to additional teachings and opportunities for support in their practice offered through Patreon. If you want to deepen your practice and your connection to the Sangha, please visit our Patreon and pledge your support. The link is provided in the description of this live video. Please help us to continue this service to humanity by deepening your spiritual connection and supporting our efforts in whatever ways you are able. In news, the current property is still being prepared for sale, and we are also preparing for an estate sale. Please keep an eye on our social media accounts for the posting, which will allow people to buy furniture and other antiques from the I think we dropped a little bit, but I think we're back. In news, the current property is still being prepared for sale. We are also preparing for an estate sale. Please keep an eye on our social media accounts for the posting, which will allow people to buy furniture and other antiques from the property. This is part of our ongoing efforts to raise money to purchase a new property in Virginia, which will allow us to offer public worship and teachings of the Vedic sciences as safety permits. Please continue your support monetarily and by sharing our fundraising and sale posts. Visit the Help Us Move link in the description of this video for more information. And tonight we'll be starting with Japam practice. We will be reciting together the Gayatri mantra of goddess Shakambhari Devi. Shakambhari Devi is a form of goddess Durga. She relates specifically to nourishment through plants, fruits, and vegetables. She relates to the forests, dense with plant life. She is the provider of sustenance and the vanquisher of all troubles. We have been chanting her Gayatri mantra for several years in an effort to complete 600,000 repetitions before the opening of a temple for the goddess. We only have a few thousand repetitions left to complete. If you chant along with us, please report your repetitions through the website so we can include your chanting toward our goal. And that link should also be provided in the description. So now, very briefly, the meaning of the mantra. So the first line is Om Narayanye Chavidmahe, which means Om May we have knowledge of Goddess Narayani, the divine self, the highest realization, the supreme wealth, and the source of repose for all seekers. The next line is Shakambhari Chadhimahi. May we perceive through our contemplation Goddess Shakambhari, who dwells in the forest, is the bearer of nourishment and vegetation, who is the power of the multitudes, who loves those who nourish and protect others, and who is the constant friend of those who praise her. Last line is Tanno Devi Prachodayate, meaning, may that goddess of radiant light, Queen of the universe, impel our actions and our thoughts. The inner meaning of any mantra, however, cannot be understood by the rational mind. It is an experiential knowing which comes about from contemplating the energy of the sacred sounds and bringing our consciousness in line with the vibration of the mantra and its deity. Whether you chant with us or listen as we chant, sit mindfully so that the power of the sacred sounds can work on you and manifest their healing effects in your life.
शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात् ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्
Now we'll begin a short meditation. The instructions for the meditation are to sit silently, spine straight, shoulders back and relaxed. Close the eyes allow yourself to see the inner light of the divine radiating from your heart. If you do not see it, feel it. If distracting thoughts or feelings come into the mind, allow them to be. Witness them without hesitation, without judgment, and without analysis. Allow the light of the divine to heal them, bringing deep peace and wisdom. In light, all darkness vanishes. Practice sitting in the inner light, which is bright like 10 million suns. Let this light heal you. Invite that experience. Allow it to guide your consciousness and impel your actions for the highest good of the three realms. Om. Now we will share a teaching video from Swamiji.
They talk about 4 different types of yoga practices. They say there's Bhakti Yoga. Have you guys heard of these? Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga. They talk a lot about these 4 different practices of yoga. And a lot of people now, they say there's a different type of practice. You can pick which one is suitable to your nature. The Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of devotion. It includes practices like doing the kirtan, singing spiritual song, chanting, doing worship, preparing flower garlands in the temple to offer to the deity, even sweeping the temple, cleaning it up, cooking for the deity, singing, whatever, all these worshipful practices that increase our devotion, our bhakti. And through that path, it's possible to realize God. Or the karma yoga is a yoga of service, yoga of action. You may go out and serve people. You could open a soup kitchen, feed hungry people as your service. And the practice there would be seeing that God is in all those people that you serve. And so some people say that's a different type of yoga practice you could do. And then there's the Raja Yoga practice, which is very popular. This is the physical practices, like practicing Yama and Niyama, Asana, the physical poses, the Pranayama, breathing practices and things, is Raja Yoga. And then there's Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of knowledge, so to speak. Which is meditation, introspection. People often misunderstand that and they think it's reading books. I'll read a book and realize God, which won't happen. Not sure it's probably ever happened. Someone who's just reading a book and thinking about it. But people with a very intellectual mind get drawn to this path. They say, oh, I'll just practice Jnana Yoga. I'm going to read books because I like thinking. But the way my teacher spoke of those practices, nowadays they say it's 4 different practices. Pick the one that you're inclined toward. But my teacher used to say that these are successive practices. At first you need to practice the karma yoga to develop compassion. And then you need to practice the Bhakti Yoga to get devotion. And then you practice Raja Yoga to cause the mind and body to get in line. And then you practice Jnana Yoga by meditating. And then you realize God. Patanjali described yoga in a process of 8 successive steps. From the same tradition, those 4 practices were described as 4 successive steps within the practice. These, if you've heard of Ashtanga Yoga, Ashta means 8, Anga means limbs. There's 8 different steps or 8 different practices. Ashtanga Yoga is also now a modern style of yoga started by some teacher. They use that name. I'm not sure they've trademarked that name. They talk about Ayurveda as an Ashtanga system also. A system with 8 limbs. One of the big texts in Ayurveda is the Ashtanga Hridayam, the heart of the Ashtanga, the 8-limbed science. But Patanjali described yoga as a 8-limbed practice. And so we don't focus on all of these anymore necessarily, and it's very important. We're going to, in our next few talks, we're going to be talking in depth about each of these limbs. Because a lot of them are left out of the practice now. The first one is Yama. And Yama means a restraint. It means control or restraint. And these are certain practices that we do. It's like ahimsa. We try to restrain ourselves from being violent and hurting other people or things around us to the extent that we can. You might have to walk on the grass and hurt it a little bit. But you try to restrain yourself from doing certain things like that. Patanjali listed 5 yamas that I'll go into that on a different day. Tirumular in the same lineage listed 10, and other yoga authors have listed 10. We get a better sense of it by looking at all 10, so we'll do that. And then there's the niyamas. These are observances. Kind of the opposite of the yama, but it's very similar. These are things you want to do without restraint. Like worshiping the Lord, like being content. It's interesting. We tell yoga students now you'll get contentment and peace, mental peace, by doing yoga practice. But Patanjali said the opposite. He said you've got to practice being peaceful, contentment. You have to have contentment, and then can you do the 3rd step, asana, the physical postures. Patanjali had 2 lines on asana in his whole text, and it basically says sit comfortably. Which is, that's all you need to say really, but that can be complicated. People have a lot of difficulty to do that. I see yoga teachers trying to sit they come to a talk I'm giving, they'll be sitting, they're the worst sitters out of all of us sometimes. Indian people are great, they're used to it. They call it Indian style when you sit like this, and there's a reason for that. They're in practice, they know what they're doing, they can sit like this pretty well. The yoga teachers, they'll be getting up like, "Ooh, my leg fell asleep," there's, moving around the whole time. Even though the purpose of the asana is to sit. Sit comfortably. But so there's the physical practices that causes the body to be able to sit without distraction. And then there's the pranayama. This is our fourth step here, pranayama, the breathing practice. All kinds of different breathing practice. They can calm the mind. So now the mind no longer will be a distraction in our meditation. Then we have pratyahara. Pratyahara means withdrawal of the senses. So as we're redirecting the senses from the external to the internal reality, from the gross to the subtle. There can be some practices for these, but we're getting to a place where it's not so much of a physical practice anymore. It's something that starts to happen as you're doing certain practices. Then we have dharana, concentration. We have dhyana, meditation. This is our seventh step. And eighth step is samadhi, which is union. Yoga means union. It's uniting your consciousness with the divine, uniting yourself with God, uniting the jiva with Shiva. And so concentration, there can be practices that help us to concentrate. Once we can concentrate, that gets extended, it turns into meditation. Once we meditate and the ego self comes out, differentiation between you as the observer and the thing you're observing starts to disappear, and you're united with it. And all knowledge of that thing comes. There's not really meditation is not a practice. People say, I'm practicing my meditation. I'm doing a meditation practice. But you can't really practice meditation. There are techniques that help prepare us for meditation. But it's not really a meditation when you sit there and you focus on the breath, or you say Om, Om. It's not that you're meditating, you're practicing to prepare yourself for meditation. Meditation is something that just kind of happens. When we've prepared ourselves through these other practices. So all of these steps are important, and some may be more important for some people than for others. We can't necessarily realize God just doing the asanas. It's important to realize. I've met some yoga teachers who think that they're making great spiritual progress by doing an asana practice. Meanwhile, they have a lot of struggles in their life they're not trying to work on. They're having arguments with their family, they don't want to resolve that. They're angry with their family members, they don't want to release that resentment. They're struggling with their eating habits and suffering, their health is suffering, they don't want to work on that. They have some stupid thought that by doing the aerobics practice it will resolve all of their problems and lead them to a higher state of realization. Like Christians who go to church on Sunday and they think they pray so now all their sins are washed away. They'll go out on Monday and start doing the same sinful deeds they were doing before. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. If you do the yoga asanas with the right awareness, with the right intention, maybe it can lead you to a lot of opening, awakening. But in this yoga practice we teach, we do more than just asana. We do some chanting, we do some spiritual teaching, we do some breathing practices, some meditations, so that practice altogether can lead someone to a higher awareness. If you did the asanas in the right way, maybe it could lead to awakening. If you did it with the right intention, with the right humbleness, with the willingness to face the faults within and allow them to come up and sort them out, it could help. But generally, asana was not created for that purpose. the asanas do have some tendency to open us up to a higher awareness a little bit, but the practice of asana was not given for that purpose. So we've got to practice all the different steps in yoga. We've got to realize that, Patanjali said, he didn't say that asana will bring you contentment. It's not the best thing for that, to have a calm mind. Asana practice is not the best practice. Walking in the woods probably would be more calming. Or some breathing exercises are way more calming. Many things could be much more calming and relaxing. Rubbing sesame oil, if you're ungrounded, rubbing sesame oil into your feet will probably be much more grounding than doing the yoga asanas. We should remember, Patanjali said, we've got to be calm. Then we can practice the asanas. Not that the asanas will give us calmness and the other benefits that any aerobics could give us. When we practice yoga in that way, thinking that, we'll get probably even lesser benefits than that. I've seen again and again and again that ballet dancers and people like this have much greater awareness of their body, much greater control of their body than yoga teachers. In India, the thought was the yogi was the person who is the master of his mind, master of his body, and there's yogis in India, they can stop their heart. They can lower their body temperature 10 degrees, they can raise it 5 degrees, because they have this kind of mastery over their body. Then we have yoga teachers here in the US, they're doing flips. Not even really impressive flips. I see the yoga teachers and it's like, okay, yeah. See, because when I was a child, my parents took me to Cirque du Soleil. These Canadian people, they do some flips that will really impress you. Unlike anything these yoga people do. And so, for all these purposes, these lesser purposes, yoga is not well suited. But when we do it with this higher aspiration for realization as a part of the greater system of yoga, it can transform our lives, transform our existence, change our sense of who we are. We go into the practice surrounded by darkness. And we come out of it seeing that the source of light in the universe is within us. The Upanishads say, the light in the sun, the light that makes the sun shine, is the same light shining within the human soul. And this is the purpose of yoga, not to help us understand that intellectually, but to help us to experience that.
Now we will offer a short puja. Puja is the traditional system of offerings coupled with mantras and visualizations revealed by the sages to help people seek the assistance of divine beings in their lives and spiritual practice. Puja ceremonies can be simple, as in the case of the offerings made daily in the homes of millions of Hindus, or extremely complicated, as are the rituals of temple consecration, which require the participation of hundreds of devotees and dozens of well-trained priests. The oil lamps, fruits, flowers, water, herbal incense, and other offerings provide prana, or subtle nutrients, for the devas and other inner realm beings to send blessings to the physical realm. The sacred mantras open a channel to the inner realms. The effects of puja are powerful to bring about peace and healing. During puja, problems are mysteriously resolved, and answers to difficult questions arise spontaneously by the grace of the many inner plane beings working to fulfill our prayer, empowered by the sacred mantras and offerings. We are conducting a simple pancha puja of 5 offerings. These offerings relate to the 5 elements and are pushpa, a flower, which symbolizes the ether element, gandha, or sandalwood paste, connected to the earth element, Dhupa, incense, symbolic of the air element. Deepa, light, symbolizing fire. And Naivedyam, food relating to water.
Om Adya Purvokta Evam Gunavisheshena Vishishtayam Asyam Shubhatithau Sri Soma Matha Sanghasya Asmakam Sah Kutumbhanam Kshemasthirya Virya Vijaya Ayura Roga Aiswaryanam Abhivriddhartham Shri Shakambhari Devi Prasada Siddhyartham Yatha Shaktya Shri Shakambhari Devi Pancha Pujam Karisye Om Apa Upasprisya Om Jata Veda Zezunavama Soma Marathi Hato Nidahati Vedaha Sanah Parshadati Durgani Vishvanaveva Sindhum Duritatyaknihi Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Asmin Chitrapathe Sri Shakambhari Devim Avahayami Sthapayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Gandhan Dharayami Gandhasyopari Haridra Kumkumam Samarpayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Pushpam Pujayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Dhupam Agrapayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Deepam Darshayami Om Amritamastu Amritopastaranamasi Om Pranaya Swaha Om Apanaya Swaha Om Vyanaya Swaha Om Udanaya Swaha Om Samanaya Swaha Om Brahmane Swaha Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Naivedyam Nivedayami Tambulam Nivedayami Amritapaniyam Samarpayami Om Yopam Pushpam Veda Pushpavan Prajavahan Pashuman Bhavati Chandramava Apam Pushpam Pushpavan Prajavahan Pashuman Bhavati Ya evam Veda Yopamayatanam Veda Ayatanavan Bhavati Rajadhirajaya Prasaya Sahine Namo Vayam Vahi Shravanaya Kurmahe Same Kaman Kama Kama Yahmahyam Kameshwaro Vaihi Shravano Dadhatu Kuberaya Vaishravanaya Maharajaya Namaha Yo Vedado Swarah Prokto Vedante Cha Pratishtitaha tasya prakritilinasya yah parassa maheshwaraha narayanye cha vidmahe shakambhare cha dhimahi Tatno Devi prachodayate Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devi Namaha Om Bhurбhuvassuvaha Om Avahitabhyas Sarvabhyo Devatabhyo Namaha Vedokta Mantra Pushpanjalim Samarpayami Kale Varshantu Parjanyaha Prithive Sasya Sahitni Desho Hyam Kshobarahitaha Brahmana Sandhu Nirbhayaha Bhagavata Sandhu Nirbhayaha Sajjana Sandhu Nirbhayaha Sarve Chana Sandhu Nirbhayaha Swaste Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahimahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Lokah Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Aim Kara Hrim Kara Rahasya Yukta Shrim Kara Gudhartha Mahavibhutya Om Kara Marma Pradipadinibhyam Namo Namaha Shri Guru Padukabhyam Ajnana Nashanaya Vidmahe Jnana Prakashaya Dhimahi Tatno Guru Padukah Prachodayate Om Shatamanam Bhavati Shatayuh Purushashatendriya Ayushevendrihe Pratitishthati Om Sahatna Vavatu Sahatna Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Shri Devi Arpanamastu
We offer this Sangha freely. Please remember to join our Patreon, donate, volunteer, and spread the word about our upcoming move.